Hi, I'm Ivan Bravi from Queen Mary University of London. I show how to make a shallow analysis of decision making in the context of general video game playing. We want to get an insight on the decision making process of a game playing AI and want to be able to recognize different or similar behaviors. Knowing the behavior of a game playing AI and being able to compare it against others opens many interesting paths. It can be used for automatic testing to see what behaviors are suitable in a level, or it can be used to generate levels targeting desired behaviors. But in particular, it can be used to get an insight on the behavior of black box AI. We use the GVGI framework that has four main aims: playing and learning games, and creating games and levels. For each aim, there is a competition track: planning track, learning track, level generation track, and rule generation track. The competition uses two main ways of assessing the quality of AIs: pure performance, as in win ratio and score, or human evaluation, specifically for level or rule generation tracks. So we want to understand the behavior of an artificial intelligence expressed through its decision making. Gameplay can be analyzed on three different levels of abstraction, depending on the time granularity of the analysis: action, tactic, strategic. We focus on the finest level, analyzing it action by action. However, we need some data that can represent decision making. An AI can expose different kinds of data or measurements. We need some guidelines to extract this data and put into metrics. So we decided to define three main principles. The metrics need to be shallow, both with respect to the game, thus representing the next action, and the implementation of the AI, since we don't want to dive too much into its nature. They should be general, capturing only details about decision making, and finally flexible, since it has to be adaptable to all algorithm paradigms. So we have defined this table of values. A star is the recommended action to be played next. P is the probability vector, where each element represents the probability of considering an action during the decision-making process. Then we have B, the vector of real values, representing each value associated to an action. B, ratio of the available budget consumed. And finally, conv, the budget ratio when the preferred action stops fluctuating. At this point, we have defined some metrics that we can extract, but we want to use them to compare two agents that could have two different algorithmic natures. So we have defined the following comparison method. At the first level, we look at the similarity of their decision making. So either measuring their pure agreement, so over the preferred action, or looking at the decision similarity, thus looking at the probability vectors of the two agents. Then we can look at the value estimation, so if the two AIs are ranking the actions in the same way. Or we can look at the convergence, so if one AI converges to a stable solution earlier than another. And finally, in the case where the convergence is more or less the same, we can then measure the efficiency, so if the overall budget used is less or more for one of the two agents. At this point, we have defined the metrics and how to use them to compare two AIs. However, most games are stochastic, so we need to take this into consideration when we gather the data. To solve this issue, we have introduced the concept of shadowing agent, where a proxy agent manages two actual agents, called main and shadow, that can reason on the same exact conditions. The shadowing agent redirects the current state provided by GVGI to both, but only the preferred action of the main agent is forwarded to the framework. In this way, we can guarantee same condition and same budget. Once we have few agents, we can run experiments with all the possible couplings. These experiments produce logs of these metrics, which are saved frame by frame. These logs can be later analyzed offline. We have implemented these 4 types of agents. The first 3 are quite simple but provide a solid baseline, while the 4th one is the most widespread algorithm in GVGI. It's aimed at understanding how this MCTS tree policy works, and especially how each term of the equation affects the behavior of the agent. This formula is not that complex, but trying to understand how each term weighs in the final value is hard. We progressively prune the equation to produce all possible prunings of it, and at the end we have run the experiment with all these agents, comparing all the possible couplings of main and shadow agent, thus comparing all the equations and all the baseline together. We tested them on 5 games, but I'm going to show you some results just about 2 games. Aliens, which is a GVGI implementation of Space Invaders, and RaceBet, where the agent has to place itself on the tile of the color of the winning camel that is racing on the above track. Now we have the data, but we need to manipulate it to analyze it. We load the data for each frame through multiple playthroughs. The aggregated data of an agent for a specific game is averaged between all the playthroughs, and the data of a single playthrough is computed averaging all the data collected for each frame of the playthrough. In this matrix, each square represents the agreement percentage between main and shadow agents. It has a few nice features. The diagonal represents the self-agreement that describes the stability of the decision-making and the reward landscape of the agent. In particular, agent 16, the random agent, shows the percentage of agreeing by chances. Let's pick this example. We notice the term in agent 0 is common also to agents 8 and 12. This term brings some interesting consistency in the decision making. Maximizing it means reducing the sum of the distances from the NPCs, which are the aliens. What's the best way of doing so? Well, it's killing the aliens. As soon as we combine it with this other term, the agent is able to use another fundamental mechanic of the game, dodging. What the term says is basically to maximize the minimum distance from movable objects, which are the bullets shot by the aliens. Each single metric can also be analyzed as it progresses through time. Here we have an example of convergence for agent 10 in the game RaceBet. The convergence is one for most of the game, showing the indecision of the agent. Why does it drop at the end? The race outcome is clearer only at the end of the game. That's why the agent is never sure on the next action at the beginning of the game. But as we get closer to the end, the outcome is clearer, and the convergence is way faster. We have defined a set of metrics that could give us a powerful yet general insight on the decision-making of an AI agent. We have introduced an experimental setup for the GVGI framework that lets us test 2 AI agents on the same exact conditions. We have outlined a comparison method that lets us analyze the decision-making or behavior of 2 different game-playing AIs. The results have shown the peculiar expressivity of these tools, letting some interesting features to arise, some game design qualities of the games, but also behavioral details of the agents. They have also been particularly important to analyze the relevance of terms or portions of the heuristic we wanted to understand and inspect. For future work, we'd like to take a step further in the abstraction level and try to compare AIs on the tactics level, so to get a more coarse analysis of the agent's behavior. We also would like to apply this method to black box AI agents to analyze and compare their behavior to some agents with known behaviors. And finally, we would like to expand the current set of metrics with more design-oriented measurement, such as the average number of events triggered, breadth and depth of the game states searched by the agents, and many more. Thank you for your time.